I am just delighted to be able to introduce our keynote speaker today. Bill Richardson has led a notable career in public service. He's been a United States congressman from 82 to 86. He was United States ambassador to the United Nations, 97, 98. He was Secretary of Energy under Bill Clinton from 88 to 2000. And he was the 30th governor of New Mexico from 2003 to 2011. After retiring from public service, Governor Richardson has authored 3 books and started 2 foundations: the Richardson Center for Global Engagement and the Foundation to Preserve New Mexico Wildlife. He also sits on several nonprofit boards, including the World Resources Institute, WRI, and the National Council for Science and the Environment, NCSE. In addition, he sits on numerous for-profit boards, mostly in the renewable energy space. Please help me give a warm Montana welcome to Governor Bill Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chuck. Chuck, I noticed you didn't mention my very brief presidential run. It was very brief. I didn't do too well. You know, it's a wrong year, but, you know, a little anecdote. When I was in the presidential race, you know, the first primaries, Iowa and New Hampshire, and Vice President Biden, who's a friend, always gives me grief. You know, he says, I'm overweight, my hair's too long. And I said, Mr. Vice President, be careful. I beat you in Iowa. I did. 2-1. You know, there were 3 of us that left, and he dropped out. He says, yeah, but I'm vice president. So, well, look, I'm so happy to be here in Montana. And by the way, I'm going to be very bipartisan because I know the only Democrats here are myself and that guy in the kitchen. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I know. I'm kidding. But I wanted to just mention, I know Senator Tester was here. I never served with him in the Congress, but great guy. I've dealt with him. I was just reminiscing this morning. I was on this show with Aaron, the radio show. Aaron Hicks, I think his last name is. Is that right? Yeah, okay, well, don't tell him I forgot. But we had a great interview. And, you know, I know a lot of your former senators, legislators. I was very sorry to hear that Judy Martz died. We were governors at the same time. And she gave me this beautiful Western painting that I still have in my office. Pat Williams, he and I were in the House together. Carol Williams, she kind of told him what to do. But Pat was a great colleague. Brian Schweitzer, your ex-governor, I called him Schweitzer. He hated that. If you see him, tell him that I still am doing it. And then Max Baucus, and I'm going to tell you a very quick story. By the way, and I don't know if Peggy Gagan is still here, but oh, okay, well, she's the most important person to me in this room. You know why? Because she's chairman of the airport commission. I have to get out today to Palm Springs, and I came in last night, you know, and there's the runway. I couldn't see the runway, but her daughter was my chief of staff at the Department of Energy, and the daughter, Rebecca, is now director of communications of the International Energy Agency in Paris. So she's a big shot. I know there are a lot of union folks here. You know, we have something in common. My state also has had some shutdown of coal-fired plants, and you know, we're moving into the renewable area. But you know, as a politician, I used to get those coal job votes. We had a coal plant in Raton, New Mexico, and the Four Corners. Unfortunately, they've shut down. So what I wanted to do was just go through this story with Max Baucus. He's my friend. I guess he's somewhere here. And Senator, I know Senator Yellowtail is here. He was a great leader here, and energy. You and I are the only Democrats here. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'll stop saying that. But what I remember, we had this when I was Secretary of Energy, and you guys had somewhere in Montana. I was just asking Peggy because she worked for Max Baucus. There was an energy timber plant of some kind called Libby or Billy or something. And I used to get briefed by my staff at the Department of Energy. Mr. Secretary, you're going to get a call from Max Baucus, and he's going to want some more money for this energy plant. And please don't give it to him because it's very inefficient. And we got to shut it down, and we got to save money. And I started thinking to, these brainy staff of mine, yeah, I'm going to tell Max Baucus I'm going to shut down his plant. Sure. So I get that call from Max. And he calls me Big Bill. I called him Maxie. Big Bill. Okay, well, this Libby plant, it's really improving, he said. It's being managed more efficiently. I said, okay, Max, all right, so what do you want? He said, well, I'm going to need about $60 million to keep it going. I said, well, geez, we did, some of that before. He'd go back and forth. And I said, Max, I'm getting my people are saying we ought to shut it down. And then he says, Bill, Big Bill, I got a tough re-election. And I said, all right, 25 million. And that was it. That's how policy's made in Washington, by the way. Anyway, but please give all your representatives my very best. I have a prepared speech that I do want to give because this is this is where I come down. I'm going to give you my conclusion. I'm not one of those that says that coal is dead. It's not. Coal is in transition, and I believe internationally there's a lot of coal all over the world, and that's going to continue. In the United States, I think coal has some challenges. And you as a state, you've got 1,900 people dependent on coal. You've got a burgeoning industry. Coal is in transition. But I believe you have here, if there is a concerted national dedication to a Marshall Plan, this is where I'm ending up, a Marshall Plan that focuses on carbon capture and sequestration, a combined effort of universities, national labs, federal government, state government, a combined effort to develop these technologies the way we did with shale, the way we did with shale. I think there's a possibility that coal can be a player, no longer dominant. Look, it's natural gas, it's renewable, it's solar and wind. That's, I think, the future. That doesn't mean that you say to coal, all right, you're done. I'm not part of that. I mean, I grew up in New Mexico where we have varied energy sources. We're not as energy rich as you guys. And you guys have option. You have wind. You have natural gas. You have solar. You've got export markets. So I guess my message is that if there's a national combined effort, and not political rhetoric, coal is king, it's got to be a concerted effort. And the reason I'm saying this here at the Wheeler Center is you guys have a research capability, Montana State. You got people that have experience. Find ways that we can do that Marshall Plan. I'm saying Marshall. I'm not saying, all right, 30 million here like Max Baucus and I, or 40 million. No. It's like a real effort that involves the private sector, our national laboratories. We've got a lot of them. I used to be head of all the national labs. They didn't listen to me, but That's supposed to be funny. I guess not, huh? But so that's, that's my point. And just last week, I had breakfast with the president of the Navajo Nation. I mean, I have, like you, many Native American tribes. And the Navajos are the biggest tribe in the country, numbers-wise. Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah. And 2 of their coal plants, power plants, are being shut down. And they want to move into renewable energy, and we're trying to find something with the Clinton Energy Operation, Clinton Foundation, to find ways to make up for those jobs. They lost 2,000 jobs, coal jobs, Navajos, just like many of you here. And so I want to start with a basic insight into what's happening in America's electricity industry. And I think the pace of clean energy deployment in the electric power sector is dramatically accelerating. This isn't just my opinion or my hope for the future. I mean, you can see it in wind and solar developments across Montana, transmission and energy storage projects across the West, regional markets like the Energy Imbalance Market and the Mountain West Transmission Group. It's what America's utilities are seeing in practice. And too much politics has gotten into this issue. I hear some of my coal friends saying, oh, it's a Sierra Club, it's all their fault. You know what? It's markets, it's utility. I mean, this is the way things are changing. It gets too polarized. Oh, Republicans, they're for coal. The Democrats, like Richardson and others, they're anti. No, I think this is a political debate that, in my judgment, does not make sense. I think we have to focus on technology, on market issues, and on research. I think that is what I hope, like this very valuable conference can come up with. Because I was in Washington yesterday, and some of my friends, some are elitists, say, well, what are you doing tomorrow? Well, I'm going to Montana. I'm going to give a speech. What's the subject? The future of the coal industry. They say, oh, yeah, was that about a 2-minute speech? Ha, ha. No. I mean, I think what we have to do is recognize that we've got to look at solutions. Take the Edison Electric Institute. It's an association of all U.S. investor electric companies. They issued a joint statement with the NRDC, National Resources Defense Council, environmentalists, at a national conference of energy regulators. Quoting the report, they said, a clean energy transition is underway and accelerating. When a leading utility trade association and a respected conservation group agree, you can bet it's a fact. So I think we have to recognize that, and I know you have. I know you've been hearing this all morning, and with your excellent historians here. I met one of them, the coal industry, what it does to communities. So the power sector is changing quickly, which is really saying something for an industry known to be slow to change. The coal industry, nuclear guys, I dealt with them. I remember telling the nuclear guys, this was like years ago when nuclear doesn't emit emissions. It's clean. I said, you know what you guys should do? I mean, you guys should get together with the Sierra Club and be a coalition. I mean, I thought they were going to kill me after I said that. I said, that's the politics, the economics of the future. They didn't listen, and now, the nuclear industry, they've got problems with cost, the regulation, people are scared, and it doesn't emit emissions. So, I think the coal industry needs to move forward, needs to think about the future, needs to get modern and combine with the renewable energy people and with the natural gas components and research and technology. I know you're probably saying, well, what does this guy know? Well, I was Secretary of Energy. Well, that doesn't say much, but my point is that I think new coalitions are needed. The power sector is changing quickly, and the fact is that in many parts of the countries, utilities can build and operate new renewable storage, gas facilities for less money than it takes to keep existing coal-fired plants running. I mean, this is the case in many states, including yours and mine. So, natural gas prices historically low due to technology improvements that makes extracting new resources easier, most cost-effective. This is going to make flexible natural gas-fired power plants very attractive to utilities. State-of-the-art gas plants can ramp up, down, quickly to match customer needs to complement renewable energy generation on the system. And then there's the big story, the low-cost, competitive, renewable energy sector. I mean, I can give you these examples. Take a look at the Xcel Energy in Colorado. They're in the process of retiring 2 older coal-fired units, replacing them with renewables, possibly a small amount of gas. They say with it they will grow to regulators that this will keep customers neutral, more likely save customers millions of dollars as compared to the status quo. If the plan doesn't save customers money, they won't go forward with it. And that's how confident they are about a clean energy future. They expect to be at 55% renewable energy by 2026 and to reduce carbon emissions 60% from 2005 levels, all without a negative impact to customer bills. All of these recent RFPs that Xcel had brought in some of the lowest prices for wind, solar, and energy storage that we've seen in the country. Hundreds of bids were submitted. The median price for wind bids came in at $18 per megawatt hour. You guys are the champions of wind. You have more wind here. I mean, just go to the airport. But my point is that there's enormous potential. Montana has options. You have so many options. And that includes coal. That's my point. I'm not a politician that's trying to say to you, you can have it all. I know you've had some tough times on coal, but I think if we're smart, we're America. We can, these fracking people, these shale people, the Saudis try to shut them down. OPEC tried to shut them down. You know what they did? They got better technology so they wouldn't be shut down by prices that OPEC had, and they developed and became stronger. And this is why shale and natural gas has survived. And this is why I think it's not just survived, but flourished. I mean, I'm going to give you an energy picture of the whole world a little later, but I think this is why it's very important. So clean energy deployment, development is accelerating dramatically. So what does this mean for the future of coal? I mean, I've kind of said this to you. Perhaps many of you are here to attend a conference that contemplates that very question. And I commend you for being very honest about what this conference is about. I have a long career as a diplomat. I think Chuck mentioned that in a beautiful introduction. So I'll put this gently but clearly, especially since my home state of New Mexico has the same proud history of coal mining and coal-fired electricity generation. Economic transition has to start now. States, counties, communities that have relied on coal mining jobs, coal plant jobs, coal severance taxes, and you guys, $1,957 million in 2016 from coal for your severance tax, $1 billion of coal trust fund. That was very smart, by the way, that you did that. I wish we'd done that in New Mexico, have that trust fund. I think you have to start thinking about an economic transition. Doesn't mean you forget about coal. It means that coal generation, looking ahead for a few years, coal generations that have been outfitted with modern pollution controls are going to continue to be part of the mix. There might be technology breakthroughs. This is where I think it's so important, on carbon capture, on sequestration, that would stop that would reduce greenhouse gas emissions. But we can't hope for miracles, but you have to make an effort, not just, okay, we're going to have a course here in this. It has to be a Marshall Plan of some kind instead of rhetoric. Older coal plants are going to retire. I mean, that's the economics. The economics are not going to be around to keep them running. I know you've dealt with this here, the coal strip area. I've got Farmington, New Mexico, Pueblo, Colorado, many others around the country. So what needs to happen is states and communities need to chart their own courses. They can't do that by looking backwards. They also simply can't rely on new energy resources to be built in their communities to replace a coal plant and its associated revenues. Sometimes that'll work, but not always. So, I mean, you've heard this here. What do? You got to diversify. You got to think about what kinds of jobs and economic development, tax base is going to work. Is it manufacturing? Is it tourism? Is it all of the above? Healthcare? It's not going to be easy. You know, communities. I mean, you take my state of New Mexico, and you know, I always would look at a coal miner, and they all would vote for me, and they'd say, Gov, you know, what are we going to do? I mean, I'm not going to be a computer operator. This is a coal guy, big guy. It's too late. What do I do? I think we have to have answers and options for these kind of situations. And I'm not sure we have the best right now. So, big changes in the West on power generation. The market environment is also changing for distribution. Western utilities have long prized their independence, but they're starting to see benefits to broader market participation. So, you know, this is happening all over the West. What this means, it's in plain English, is enhanced grid reliability. Millions of dollars of cost savings for customers, and improved integration of renewable energy. More and more utilities are considering whether to join this new agreement, the EIM. The Mountain West Transition Group is an example. Mountain West is an informal collaboration of electricity service providers that is considering joining this RTO. The bottom line is that an increasing number of Western utilities see benefits to themselves and their customers. What's this happening in the West? Nevada, considering a ballot initiative called Energy Choice that could essentially lead to deregulation. In New Mexico, a rural electric co-op called Kit Carson paid a steep exit fee to Tri-State to exit its system and procure its own power on the market, largely to pursue its customers' clean energy goals and to develop more of its own solar capabilities. Communities are setting clean energy goals. Renewable portfolio standard ballot initiatives underway in Arizona and Nevada. In New Mexico, they're talking about 50% renewable by the year 2030. I started when I was governor at 20% renewable in 2003. Now they want to double it. California, they want to go to 150%. I'm kidding, but it's, you know, 100. And they probably are going to get there. Large energy users, Google, Apple, Facebook, others are contracting for renewable energy to keep their power bills stable. We just got a Facebook facility in New Mexico, and it's all solar. It's all solar. States are using the Volkswagen settlement funds to develop electric vehicle infrastructure. So, you know, I want to end where I started. The pace of clean energy development in the electric power sector is accelerating, and Western states have to have independent thinking, bold leadership, and this is where I think you here in Montana can take the lead. Don't let it just be California and New Mexico and Nevada. I think, you know, you guys have it all here, and you're way at the top. You've got these options. You've got technology. You've got the university system. You've got leaders here that I think need to recognize that Montana needs to focus on the energy of the future. Anyway, the world situation, the world is changing. What's happened with energy development? First, you know the number one producer of oil and gas in the world is the United States. This happened in the last 10 years because of shale. We produce 11 million barrels of oil a day. That's significant, and that's given us geopolitical options. LNG terminals, the oil export ban, which was good that we got rid of it. We can export oil, probably 2 million barrels every year. That is important. Gives us geopolitical options with Russia. Russia uses natural gas in Eastern Europe with NATO to squeeze countries. They would say to Ukraine, unless you take these troops out, we're going to cut your natural gas. And they do that. But with LNG and U.S. natural gas and shale, we are able in Europe and Germany and Poland to say to our allies, look, we'll take care of you, and we can make some money too. This is good. This is a good energy development. Secondly, OPEC, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, the Arab states that are members of OPEC, Nigeria, Venezuela, they're important, but they're not as powerful as they used to do. They used to say, all right, production is going to increase or lower because we're going to affect the price. Because of the options that we have energy-wise, we don't have to rely on them anymore. They can affect the price a little bit, but the price of oil today is relatively stable. I mean, I don't know what it is this morning, but I think it's given us a certain independence. Number three, China, huge player in reducing pollution, which is going to find ways for more technology, and huge solar development, especially solar panels. And one of the reasons solar is flourishing, two of them. One is a dramatic number of new solar panels everywhere, mainly from China, that lowers the price. And secondly is technology, solar technology, wind technology, mainly solar, developing very fast and efficiently. The problem with solar is their companies are not investing enough in research for the future. You know how computer and other arenas, maybe 10% is in future research. Solar is, they're getting a little fat. In other words, only 1 or 2% in new research. So they need to do more, but the technology in the private sector is dramatically expanding. What else has happened in the world energy trends is what's happening here because of the Paris Climate Agreement, which I think it was a mistake for us to withdraw. I do. Maybe you guys disagree, but yeah, why? We're leaders. Now China's taken the lead on the carbon emissions issue, and the world is changing. I was a UN ambassador. 195 countries are inscribed, they're part of the UN. 179 of them have said that renewable energy is their energy path of the future. 179, I mean, they see what's happening. And there's a debate too about what is the bridge to renewables. Is it, I gave a talk in New Mexico a week ago, and somebody went after me because I said the bridge is natural gas to renewables. And some person got up and said, no, it's not, it's nuclear. Nuclear is the bridge. There's a debate going on because of the emissions issue. So what I'm saying is that in this world that is changing, the shift worldwide from coal and nuclear and petroleum, although petroleum is going to be around and they're strong, to natural gas and renewable, it's a worldwide phenomenon. It's happening, I believe, slower internationally than it is happening in the U.S. So, I can keep doing my prepared talk, but I'm going to say something that is bipartisan in nature. The governor of Wyoming, Republican, Matt Mead, not exactly a member of Greenpeace, he recently told a reporter, quote, "We need to recognize that the market believes in climate change partially being man-made, that the banks believe in it. And around the planet, we see countries that we could sell coal to who strongly believe in concerns around CO2. Regardless of personal beliefs or skepticism, if you're the leading coal producer, you also have an opportunity, an obligation to address this issue." This is pragmatism. This is what we need to do in the West as we look at this energy transition. And this can be good news for states like you that are willing to seize the clean energy future, bank on research and technology for coal. I'm not saying, you abandon your strategy. You enhance your strategy and capitalize on possibilities for job and economic growth. You're a natural leader, a national leader in wind energy potential. I have some statistics here. You're one of the top states in the country for potential wind generation, according to the Renewable Energy Lab, which we used to run at DOE in Colorado and Golden. The state has a technical wind potential of approximately 687,800 megawatts. And this potential, combined with manufacturing expertise, could make the state a powerhouse for the wind industry. You have currently 14 wind projects online with a total capital investment of over $1.2 billion. And expanding wind power is going to create even more opportunities. So how do you do that? And this is where trade is very important. We're future markets. Demand in the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, they're moving to 50% renewable portfolio standard. Washington State, looking to replace power from retiring coal strip units. I mean, these moves provide a great market for your energy, your present opportunities to develop Montana's world-class wind resources. Transmission is another area. We also need to improve the pathways to get this energy to these markets, supporting projects like the Montana to Washington M2W transmission upgrade. It's low cost, it's environmentally friendly, upgrade on an existing line that could provide up to 700 megawatt transfer capacity for new Montana wind projects. You can power the new energy economy across the interior West, and it will make Montana stronger and more economically resilient in the process. You got natural gas. I mean, what are you guys complaining about? You got it all. You got natural gas. The Bakken State, the eastern Montana's Bakken Shale in particular, growing market for Montana's natural gas as well. According to the Energy Information, which the Secretary of Energy, by the way, technically heads. I'll tell you a quick story. There was a statistic when I was secretary that the Energy Information Agency, Congress has said it will be independent of the secretary, no politics. And I remember saying to the head of it, you know, that statistic that you just gave about, I think the price of oil was $10 a barrel. Could you not say that? Oh, Mr. Secretary, we are independent of you. Yeah, I said, well, geez, I'm the secretary. You don't say it. He said, I am going to say it or I'll resign. Oh, we did work a compromise. He didn't make that announcement until after I gave my speech and announcement. So, but it shows that I think that these are good agencies. They do good work. Natural gas recently surpassed coal as the main fuel to generate electricity in the U.S. I mean, it used to be coal. Now it's natural gas. This is happening. Projections show natural gas remaining the leading source of electricity generation through 2050. By 2050, natural gas accounts for 35% of total electricity generation, a slight increase from 2017 to 31%. This is market opportunities for you guys. But, you know, this is a big but. This opportunity only exists if states, the federal government, and its oil and gas industry continue to drive down methane emissions. I'm not going to get into that because I know, Pruitt or Ryan is, I'm not going to get into that. But I'm not too keen on some of the methane announcements that have been made. My point is that you're a state rich in natural resources, copper, wheat, wind, natural gas. You guys understand that wisely managing and not wasting these resources is a key to economic success. But I think leaders like Meade and others are saying the same thing. What I'm saying is that market decisions that are being made in Helena, in your capital, in Houston, in DC, and Washington State are going to impact that market-driven transition, which is a cleaner energy future. But this is why not just embracing cleaner energy, but embracing this massive research into sequestration, into capture. And you're saying, oh, we've done that, we can't get it done. I think you can get it done. Shale did this, and they transformed American energy. They transformed it, so we're now the major power. Now, the natural gas company, I'm going to tell you something else you may not, well, I don't know if you like it, but I had a fight with the natural gas people in my state because I said, okay, we want you to flourish. We want you to do well. What do you need from the state? But you got to clean out this waste. You got to disclose your chemical, disclose the methane, disclose what you're doing. Because you know how some of the industry guys say, oh, no, the government's going to screw things up if there's too much regulation. There has to be a balance. There has to be a balance. Don't let any politician tell you one way or the other. There's got to be a balance. And, I was reading a little bit about Chuck, your mayor here, Billings. The guy was successful because he was sensible, balanced, common sense solutions, approaches. That's what you do. And, this is, and Yellowtail too. I mean, Native American issues. I mean, the sovereignty issue. I told the Navajos, I said, if you're going to get investments in clean energy, there's got to be a discussion on, private sector, market-based things. It can't just be, okay, we're going to run the whole thing. There's got to be sensible. So I think this is where you are right now. And I'm concluding by saying to you, I'm not trying to have it both ways. You say, oh, he's clean energy, but what did he say about coal? I'm saying coal has, with technology, with research, enormous possibilities. And who's going to look at you guys? Montana. You think it's going to be done in Massachusetts? No. You think it's going to be done in states that don't know coal? No. It's going to be done in states like yours, like mine, the Mountain West. This is where our thinking, our resources, our academic, the experiences, this is where it can be done. And I think I was immediately attracted to your conference when I said, Jesus, they want me to talk about the future of coal. I said, that's provocative. It's usually, how do we move to clean energy and the way. I said, that's provocative. That's good. And the rest of the country needs to, you should have told the Secretary of Energy, Rick Perry, don't go to FERC and say that more coal, there was some initiative. He lost, and they were all Trump appointees, 5-0. But I think a sensible plan, a market-based research Marshall Plan. You know what the Marshall Plan, this was what we did after Europe. Massive cooperation, collaboration, industry, labs, universities, federal government, the state. That's what we need to do. Anyway, I talk too much now. Now that I've left office, nobody cares what I say. But I just want to say, I feel I did want to say something about Judy Martz. She was a wonderful lady. When I was governor, we governors at the same time. And there was a conference here. I don't know where it was. So your state is so big. Jesus, could you shorten it a little bit? It takes forever to get anywhere, but that's great. And she had all this Montana cowboy art. She brought all the governors, and she gave me this beautiful painting by one of your great cowboy artists. I can't remember his name. I think so. But she never asked for it back, so don't make me give it back. I have it. It's beautiful, but of course Russell wants it back. But she was a very gentle, wonderful woman. And Pat Williams, I'm going to just finish with a story, which is a politics story. Pat Williams and I were members of the Mountain West Democratic Caucus. And the chairman of that group was Mo Udall, Arizona. You're figuring out this Richardson guy's old. You're right. I came in 1982. Pat was already in the Congress. And Udall said, well, we're going to rotate who the whip of the West is. In other words, these are leadership positions. And, Pat Williams is the chair right now of the Western Caucus and the Western Democrats within the Democratic Party. And we were in the majority, so it was a pretty powerful position. But now Richardson, it's his turn. So Pat, you got to step aside. Well, Pat didn't like that idea. And he went up to Mo Udall. This is a very dignified, and said, Mo, I don't want to give this up. I mean, this is really important to Montana. And do you mind if I run against Bill? And Pat said, no. And Mo said, you can run again, but we're going to beat you, Pat. All right? So we get into this race, right? Richardson against Pat. And we're friends. I mean, and Carol Williams, his wife, and my wife were friends. Carol cared just about arms control. I know she's a local official. She loved, like, the nuclear weapon. She wanted to get rid of all of them. I said, you're not going to get rid of, you're not going to make my house a wilderness area. And so we have this race. And you know what? Pat beats me by 2 votes. He beats me. And the worst part is he puts this press release all over the West. Pat Williams beats Bill Richardson. He's now still the Mountain West. And I said, Pat, you know, okay, you beat me, fine. But did you have to, like, tell everybody in the whole country? And he said something to me, which is true. He said, Bill, for me, Montana is my life. This is the last job I'll have. Congressman, you're going to go on to other things, which is true. But I remember him saying, this is really important to my state, to be within the Democratic Party. And I'll always remember that. I don't know where he is. You know, one of the things that happens in politics is you lose touch. And you know, I've lost touch. I never said goodbye to Judy. I miss Tester here. I guess he was here. Does he still have that bad thumb? Or the huh? Yeah, the little. No, he shows it. I said, Jesus, why do you have to show it all? Big guy, wonderful speaker. You know, and then Max Baucus. I told you that story about Max. And then, you know, Peggy Gagan. And there was another guy when I was in grad school who told me he spent a year here. He's from Uruguay, in Billings, Montana. We were roommates in graduate school at the Fletcher School. And he spent a year here. And he used to tell me about Billings, like every other word was Billings, Montana. He loved it here. He stayed with a family here, those Fulbright programs. And he then became ambassador from Uruguay, foreign minister of Uruguay, and UN ambassador. His name is Elbio Rosselli. And I heard so much in those early years about your community here. And I remember saying to Elbio, all right, Elbio, is this, you know, this vote at the UN, is it because of Billings, Montana? Is that why you want me to vote? But I just want to thank you for this great opportunity. And if you want me to take questions, I'll be glad to. Miss Gagan here, Mrs. Gagan is going to make sure that the runway is operating, because I got to go to Palm Springs later. But it's to give a speech, for Christ's sake. This is how I make a living. I'll be there like half a day in this evening. But I love your state. I love the West. I love being here. I'm honored that you had me. I hope my message was not, you know, have it both ways. But I really feel that. And you guys need to take the lead. Thank you very much. No, don't stand up. No, okay, stand up. No, just. All right, how about some questions? Yeah.
First, I want to thank you for your pitch for creative common ground. I think that's the direction you got to go in a lot of areas, not just coal. Specifically, I'd like to tap into your unique expertise on another subject, the potential for an agreement between North and South Korea and the United States. Would you care to comment on your unique background?
Well, I've been to North Korea 8 times. I've been an envoy of President Clinton, President Bush. I've negotiated with the North Koreans. The media calls me when there's a North Korean crisis, which is very frequently. And I want to tell you, I have no idea what's going on. No, I do. Here's my take on North Korea. This is the #1 national security threat to the country. Number 2, I agree with President Trump of talking to the North Korean leader, accepting his negotiation. I agree with that. Many people don't. My worry is that we're not prepared. That we don't have a Secretary of State yet. We don't have a National Security Advisor. Because this guy in North Korea, he's got a plan. He's unpredictable. He's a little, strange, to say the least. He never has spoken outside of this meeting he had with the president of China with any American, except for Dennis Rodman. That's supposed to be funny. It's true. The basketball. So I worry that we're not prepared. Now, I think what we need to do is, I support the president in doing this, but I think it can't just be, tweeting and like calling him a little rocket man. Asians, they have a way of being upset about things like that. And I don't like the fact that Kim Jong-un insulted the president too. But I think this is a time for traditional diplomacy, secrecy. What are our objectives? Our objectives should be to denuclearize North Korea, to get them to stop pointing their artillery at South Korea and our troops. We have 30,000 American troops in South Korea, 50,000 in Japan. We got to get them to stop this threats, these missile tests. They've stopped so far. But at the same time, they're going to want something in return. They're not going to do this for free. What do they want in return? I think what Kim Jong-un wants is, he doesn't want to get knocked off. People that have power like to keep it. So he doesn't want, he wants an end to the armistice. He wants end of sanctions. And I give the administration credit for putting more sanctions on North Korea through China. I think China finally is doing something. But at the same time, my worry is that the president will, like today, there's a very good reporter here from the Associated Press. And he said to me, he asked me about my message here, but he also asked me about immigration. Now, you guys, you have a different immigration issue with Canada, which is not that serious. And he asked me, well, the president woke up this morning and tweeted that we need National Guard troops at the border. I said, for what? I was a border governor. Immigration is receding. We need more border patrol agents. We need more technology at the border. But do we need these individuals? National Guard is for disasters, hurricanes. So anyway, so my worry is that lack of traditional diplomacy, politics that needs to happen. So I'm sorry I digress, but I'm hopeful for this summit. It's a Hail Mary pass. I hope it works, and I hope it, because it's so important, and things couldn't be worse. That's why I'm for it. Yeah.
I was hoping that you'd comment a little bit more on this Marshall Plan for energy. Here in Montana, as you mentioned, we have huge amounts of solar energy, wind energy, all kinds of energy. And you mentioned also that China is rapidly moving forward in technology related to solar and wind energy. And I would assume at some point, if we get too far behind, we'll kind of be left in the dust. And I wonder what your projections are about what Montana could do. What kinds of research you think would be relevant to the Marshall Plan that the state might embody to help bridge that gap and to make advances, and also in coal and natural gas and such.
Well, when it comes to renewables, and that is solar and wind and natural gas, I mean, the technology is advancing dramatically, and it's not just here in Montana, it's around the world, around the United States. I think they're okay on their own. What I was trying to emphasize was coal. You know, all of us, I used to, this young man in the radio said, you know, one of the things I like about you when you were running for president, he says, you mentioned you were the only candidate at some forum that mentioned clean coal. This was like 2008 when I was running. And beyond the rhetoric of sequestration, carbon capture, you know, I'm a politician. And so you look like a scientist, are you? Okay, well, you know, you're a smart guy. I'm a politician. Doesn't mean I'm not smart, but I think that there has to be more of a concentrated effort to define what exactly is sequestration, what exactly is clean coal, what exactly is capture. I mean, we've got the most brilliant mind at our national labs. I can tell you, I mean, the nuclear weapons, renewable, I don't know if they've been deployed to do this. And I don't know to what extent you here in Montana have been deployed to look at this issue of how do you reduce carbon emissions? How do you have effective scientific answers like what you asked me? And this is the challenge I'm placing. Now, it's going to take leadership. It's going to take more state funds. It's going to take a national commitment. I mean, the president seems to say the right things about coal. All right, say, okay, so why don't you put some real funds, real effort among the labs, among universities, among the federal government at DOE to find answers instead of, you know, saying coal is king. You know, I think he would listen to some of the leadership here. He won Montana big, right? Yeah, I mean, he reacts to that. I mean, any politician would. So I'm throwing the answer back to you. And I don't have the answer. I just have the rhetoric, and I know I've been briefed on some clean coal technologies, and I embraced them. You know, we tried some in New Mexico at the power plant, and, you know, the renewable and natural gas kept moving. We have also natural gas. We have the Permian Basin, which for shale is booming, just like you have here the Bakken area. Maybe one more? Or
Actually,
is that it?
Yeah, I got to interrupt. I'm sorry. We need to get Ambassador Richardson to the airport and on a plane. So please join me in thanking him one last time today.
Thank you.